YouTube, WG Revival here with the book review of Witchfinder General, by a fellow called Eric Barnes, and this is as it says here, the 17th century folklore historical wargame rules. So it's sort of a combination of like your English Civil War era stuff with a lot of the English legends of the 17th century. So in there we've got witches and werewolves. There's a thing I've never heard of outside of these rules called a barghast, which is a sort of a spiky evil hound. And rounding out the forces of darkness, there's a thing called a noctilinger, which there we go, there's a noctilinger. Conveniently it looks very like ghouls from quite a lot of wargame ranges. That one's from Heresy Miniatures. There's others, the ones I'll be doing will be from Mantic Games, because I have a few sprues of those knocking about. And then on the forces of good, you've got things like Witchfinders and troops which conveniently you can use from many English Civil War, or perhaps more correctly the War of the Three Kingdoms ranges that many miniature companies do. Again, I'll probably be going for Warlord here because I can do large quantities of plastics for not a great deal of money. Okay, one of the things the author's done here is he's renamed all the stats. So instead of movement we've got manoeuvre, instead of shooting we've got take, aim and fire, instead of close combat we've rather splendidly got fisticuffs, and so on. He's renamed everything. Every wargame stat has got its own special name in Witchfinder General. The book itself, I'm just reminded because we're on a pretty terribly laid out page here. It's really not very good at all, but it's not consistently bad, because if you go here for example, there's some really quite wonderfully moody and evocative pictures going on, so it's quite a mixed bag. The book itself is quite good quality. It's over 100 pages, glossy throughout, lots of colour, lots of illustrations. It all looks kind of good. I've not looked too much at the rules, quite a lot of them. There's things like, for a skirmish game you can get artillery in there, which I do like. I mean, it's probably not really a skirmish game. I mean, it sort of is and it isn't. It's one of those like in between ones like Saga and Bolt Action. You know, it's sort of a it's a low model count compared to say Warhammer or Hail Caesar. It's a high model count compared to say Malifaux or something. And you get the choice of deploying things in units that activate together or as individuals. Your activation is that you activate 3 things or a unit of things. Your opponent does it and you carry on until you've moved everything in your army, which I think that's quite a good thing. It sort of keeps you occupied. It doesn't mean that you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs for 20 minutes while your bloke individually moves 20 cavalry around and whatever else. That's quite nice, keeps you interested. On the subject of sort of skirmish and whatever else, I do wonder how this will scale. So some of the scenarios in the back here, they sort of build up. There's a little mini campaign that you get, which is quite a good idea, because it just sort of builds up from a very small encounter to finishing with quite a large one. Encounter 6, Storm the Manor. I think it's got around 40 or 50 figures on, and I'm not sure in activating them individually along with petards and cannon and all the rest of it. I don't know how that'll go on for vis-a-vis taking all Flaming Knight to play. The whole campaign thing though, I do like it, because it does it is a narrative thing. It does build on, you know, from one scenario to the next. It gives me a good grounding in what how I ought to be starting, how many figures I need to collect and all that sort of business. And yeah, it looks it looks fun. I think if you're into that sort of theme, you know, if you like your history with a little bit of daftness, and if you're a fan of like the Vincent Price film Witchfinder General, not least, that sort of thing, this is going to be right up your street. And it's not just like figures on a table slugging it out, you know. I mean, this scenario here is foraging, so you're like trying to get hold of barrels of beer and animals and that sort of thing. It's not just your put some figures on the table, roll some dice and see who's left standing at the end. Another thing I really like about this is that there's no points values, so it's just basically, I think it's encouraging you to devise a scenario rather than just to fight battles again, you know. So it's encouraging this narrative side of it. So rather than I have X points worth of witches and werewolves, and you have X points worth of Civil War troops, and we'll see who wins. It's, you know, let's come up with a story. Let's introduce almost this role-playing element to it, which I think is nice. And I think for me, you know, I come from a part of the country where there was a very big witch trial. There's the Lancashire witches hanged in, I believe, 1612. Now, a better channel than I would have researched that and had that figure for certain for you, but not me. I missed out on the vampires. There are vampires in this as well. I am really jumping around here, aren't I? Anyway, I do like the idea of this. I think as much as anything I like the theme. You know, I like this history with a side order of daftness. I like that it's hunting witches and whatever. I like the idea that you can do a sort of a villagey table and fight out several scenarios on it. With the points cost, I didn't mention that the idea, as well as the writing a scenario and fighting that out rather than just pitch battles, one of the things they encourage is that you swap sides. So, you know, if you do write the scenario really horribly and it's massively one-sided, at least like your opponent who you just handed his arse to, you gets a bit of revenge out of it. Lots of nice ideas in there. I'm not convinced how it'd scale, but I hope to be proved wrong. But most of all, I just love the theme. I love that, you know, you're fighting over, you're fighting these sort of Hammer horror style scenarios and that sort of thing. And it's an excuse to collect some English Civil War figures, and it's an excuse to do some sort of horror themed stuff, which I haven't really done in my you know, in this era of collecting and painting figures. It's been a lot of you know, a lot of historical, and this is something a bit more daft. I'm always up for something a bit more daft. Well, apologies for the ramble. That was my first book review. Next time I might make some notes and try and be a bit more coherent. But if anyone is still awake at the end of this, well, thank you very much for watching, and I will get something painted soon, before too long. Work continues to take a lot of my energy, but I'm slowly getting through things. Thanks for watching. I will speak to you soon. Ta-ra.